Hi everybody, Becks here with some information on the historic Mason Street School. So, with some of the history on this, the building itself, it took about a century for the people of San Diego to find the resources and commitment to establishing a permanent schoolhouse that was owned by the community for educating its children. Just like a child, this schoolhouse has had its birth, grew, moved on, found its roots, and changed its purpose. San Diego's finances at the time dictated that it be furnished simply and without a library. The original size of the schoolhouse was about 24 by 30 feet with a 10-foot ceiling. After construction of the new school in 1872, the original building was taken apart, moved, and served as a family home and later a tamale restaurant. In 1952, a dedicated group of volunteers, the San Diego County Historical Days Association, were able to stop further demolition of the building. They then arranged to have some remaining portions of the building dismantled and reassembled with portions of another 1865 building at its present site as a typical 19th century one-room schoolhouse. The organization maintained the building as a labor of love until 2013, when it was transferred to the people of California and is now a treasured part of California State Parks. The building is a California state landmark and one of the contributing elements to the Old Town Historic District listing on the National Register of Historic Places. For the people, off-duty soldiers and chaplains would spare a few hours to teach basic reading and writing in the Spanish and Mexican eras. Maria Gutierrez de Pico, the mother of future Governor Pio Pico, and General Andres Pico, taught adult soldiers how to read so that they could get a promotion and thus better the lives of themselves and their families. Mothers such as Anna Tebbets stepped in because there was no one else able to take on the responsibility. Some teachers lasted only a few weeks, such as the eccentric Joshua Sloan, who was fired in 1856 for disciplining unruly children by placing his smelly socks under their noses. An important story in the history of the building is that of Mary Chase Walker's 1 year at the Mason Street School. During the Civil War, many women entered the teaching profession after so many male teachers went off to military service. Walker had been teaching since the age of 14 in her native Massachusetts. At the rather advanced age of 33, she went back to school and became an accredited professionally trained primary school teacher. Finding teaching opportunities somewhat limited in New England, she paid the enormous amount of $375 to sail from the East Coast to Panama, taking the new railroad across the isthmus, and then taking a steamer to San Francisco. The teaching position in San Francisco did not materialize, and she accepted an offer from San Diego at the impressive salary of $65 a month. Her career ended after 1 year due to controversy surrounding her racial tolerance. A few months after her termination, she married a school board president, Ephraim Morse. The original Mason Street School building was only in operation from 1865 to 1872. It had to have been challenging to educate some 40 children in one room of all ages. But life on the frontier was full of challenges, shortages, and making do. Curriculum was very simple: reading, writing, and arithmetic, but probably not taught to the tune of a hickory stick. Students mostly came from Old Town, and attendance records show at least 1/3 of the students were absent on any one day. A rodeo or a circus in town, an important fiesta, or sudden needs for extra help at the family ranch or farm took priority over education. Individuals and the community as a whole have worked to improve education and keep alive the story of brave and resourceful pioneers. How will you educate yourself to make a difference in your community? Poses the question. And the story, so it goes like this. The story of the Mason Street School is part of the uniquely American story of progress and democracy. A solid republic can only stand on the foundation of literate and educated citizens. Education in San Diego began where it has always begun, in the family. Communities train their children with the best that is available, be that the right way to feather an arrow or working out a calculus problem. Starting in 1795, the community and its government struggled to educate its children beyond the fundamentals of horsemanship, duty, soldiering, and making life on the frontier. The second book to be printed in California was a child's textbook, Tablas para los niños que empiezan a contar, which is Tables for Children Who Are Learning to Count, year 1836. This was printed by a sometime resident of San Diego named Augustin Zamorano. Finances, the needs of ranching, and a largely oral tradition meant that a formal classroom education for more than a few months at a time was unusual for California children. In fact, public education in San Diego was nearly non-existent from 1834 until 1851. Progress in American public education was given a huge boost by the reformer, congressman, and educator Horace Mann. His work in Massachusetts included free public education, tax-financed secular schools, and a series of normal schools to train fully professional teachers. A maturing California accepted many of these ideas and slowly began to get serious about formal education. It wasn't easy. Money was always a problem. All of the teachers were untrained until 1865. Curriculum, philosophy, and tolerance were hot items of debate in the school board. William B. Toller was giving bilingual instruction to his students in 1851. The response of the Board of Education was to fire him and suspend all education for 2 years. Challenges were many, including a school district of 14,800 square miles. It included what are now the counties of San Diego, Riverside, and Imperial, bigger than the combined area of Massachusetts and Connecticut. A change came to San Diego in 1865 with the construction of the first publicly owned schoolhouse and the hiring of the first professional trained teacher, which is Mary Chase Walker. And I mentioned regarding the teacher with this putting his smelly socks as punishment under kids' nose. There were other punishments as well, and some of them range from boys playing with girls, or playing together, fighting at school, quarreling at school, gambling or betting at school, playing at cards, climbing for every 3 feet. Climbing for every foot over 3 feet up a tree, telling lies, telling tales out of school, giving each other ill names, swearing at school, misbehaving to girls, drinking spirituous liquors at school, making swings and swinging on them, for having long fingernails, misbehaving to persons on the road, for going to girls' play places, and for the girls going to boys' play places, coming to school with dirty faces and hands, for calling each other liars, for wrestling at school, for wetting each other, washing at playtime. Not sure about that one. Scuffling at school, for going and playing about the mill or creek, for going about the barn or doing any mischief about the place. And these were punishable. Each one varied anywhere from 1 lash to 10 lashes. So depending on what you got caught doing, you could get anywhere from 1 to 10 lashes. And I believe it's every year. Okay, so this was for student rules and punishments for the year 1872. And I believe each year was done differently. Last time I was there at night, this was my experience over there. It was about 8 o'clock at night, I think. And I was recording on a different camcorder than what I'm using now. Unfortunately, that one no longer works. So it has become a personal experience that I caught a female humming a tune. And the closest person or people to me were about 50 yards away. And it happened to be a couple, male and female, who were walking from the parking lot to the center of the Old Town Park. Other than that, it was just me and my friend's son, who was 11 at the time. But it was very faint, and it was a female humming a tune. Now, with that school, I have not heard anything on it being haunted. But there is a possible chance that it is. I also have to keep in mind that within 10 feet is a fence to a house, an adobe house from a family who lived there during the 1800s. With that house, I will be putting that up later, as well as the history on that house. But it also, that humming that I heard could also been one of the family members at that house. So again, I'm not sure where the female, if it is a spirit, I don't know where it falls in, if it's the school or the house. Because I really haven't heard anything on the house. But I'll get into more detail when I do put that video up. And I hope you enjoyed this. You can look up on either Facebook. It's www.facebook.com/Old Town San Diego. If you want any other information. And I will be putting up more here in the next few days. And I hope you all have a great day. Remember to hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. And leave a comment. Let me know what you think. And we'll talk soon. Bye.